It's not often you can get to visit with an award-winning and internationally acclaimed artist. But on this day, it was a short drive to her Cary home and studio where I got to spend the afternoon with one of my favorite artists, Lyudmila Tomova. It was a great chance to learn more about her and her career as a successful artist. I also got to see her vast collection of fine artworks. It was a true pleasure to have a fantastic conversation with her.
Lyudmila, I'm so happy to see you today, and thank you so much for letting us come and visit you at your wonderful home. And I'm so excited to talk to you about your art and how wonderful you are.
Well, thank you for being here. I'm just so happy to meet you guys and have a nice little conversation.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
You have a really interesting history, where you come from and how you became who you are.
So I was born in Sliven, but I actually lived in Sofia all my life. So I always say I'm from Sofia, basically in Bulgaria. And I came here to the US 30 years ago in 1990.
Wow.
As a, believe it or not, political refugee, because Bulgaria was still communist. The
amazing.
wall just had fallen in the Berlin Wall fell down, and the whole exodus from Eastern Europe. And we were a bunch of friends escaping Bulgaria. We landed in Austria. We stayed there and we got accepted to the US, and there I am.
Interesting.
Yeah. I came to New York City, in the city.
The big city.
The big city. And
Wow.
I lived there for 20 years, but the first place I lived was actually Queens for a few months. Then we moved with a bunch of friends. We just kept moving together and sharing rent because it was not easy, starting from zero. And I had personally $30 in my pocket. And I had my portfolio from Bulgaria with my artwork. So we lived in the Bronx for 5 years.
Oh my God.
I know. While I was still in school in New York, I studied at FIT, Fashion Institute of Technology there. So my art education is very, very intense. I started, my whole high school was actually School of Fine Arts in Bulgaria. And it's very difficult to get into those schools. So at the age of 13, I got into the art school. I was also lucky to get into the Academy of Fine Arts and majoring in illustration. But the third year is when the bunch of friends, we all decided, let's escape, we have to escape Bulgaria, we're gonna go west. So,
Wow.
we did escape,
How
actually.
brave.
Very brave. I didn't tell my parents. I just took my portfolio. I didn't tell them. I told them I'm going on a trip to the next town.
Looking at your art, you are so bright and just so kind of dreamy. And how did you come up with that style? What took you to become what we know you now?
My education in Bulgaria was very classical. They taught us really how to paint like the old masters, very classical, very realistic.
Yes.
And then also when I came to New York, I also studied at FIT, which is a Fashion Institute of Technology. And I studied illustration there. I graduated from FIT, and it was a very different approach, actually, more experimental, try different things. So I was introduced to more of the Western way of teaching art. And little by little, I thought, oh, now the world is wide open. I'm going to start experimenting.
Right.
And I was painting abstract. I started painting primitive art. Then I went through a whole phase of just conceptual. And little by little, I slowly came back to my original, original style, which is more realistic. But I kind of took everything else and combined it. So I'm combining abstract, conceptual with the realistic style. I don't know how to describe it, but it came to this long evolution.
What is inspiring you the most? Create your late works or like any work?
Every time is different, really different, and it happens in the flash. The
Right.
inspiration, you just see something, a scene. If I paint landscapes, certain scenes really are very inspiring, but they're not so great for painting, believe it or not. So it has to have a story or just something unusual about it, but I mostly prefer painting people. So that is my favorite. And even if I paint landscape, I'm gonna stick a person in there. We studied anatomy, plastic anatomy. We had to study the muscles in Latin
Right.
We had to draw. We had to have 100 sketches a day, every day. So from life, nobody could
Right.
paint from photos. That was a taboo, painting actually
Right,
from
right.
photos. So everything
Yes.
was from real life, and it was very intense. But I really attribute my proficiency to that part of my life. This was done in art school in New York.
Oh, wow.
They
Look at
wanted
this.
us to treat the face differently, so I did a realistic, partly realistic, and completely disjointed.
So how is it to be a professional artist like you are and doing what you do to be a mom and living a good life?
Yeah, not easy, not easy.
Not easy.
It's not easy to do everything. And I did take some time off when my kids were young, really. I did take, I actually didn't, I felt the void. I felt
Yeah.
that void when I was not painting quite as much. And I couldn't wait for them to just grow a little bit so I can little by little dig in. And it's interesting to know that artists never actually stop being artists, even if they don't paint. It's
Right.
very funny, but I
It's
notice
kind of happens
it.
inside somewhere,
Something
right?
happens
Yeah.
inside, and when you pick up the brush again, actually
Yeah.
you paint differently, as if you've developed throughout that time. So it's an interesting phenomenon.
Do you think challenges that you faced in life, whichever they might be, how much have they helped you to change as an artist?
Challenges are so important. If we don't have challenges, we don't develop, we don't move, we're just stagnant. So to
Right.
me, I welcome them. I tend to create challenges, even if I don't want to.
It's just
Yes,
happening.
it just happens. It's always crisis or a challenge or something. But I like taking the difficult path. If I have to choose
Right.
easy or difficult, I'm going to choose the difficult and kind of challenge myself. So in a way, that definitely helps me. And we shouldn't be staying in one spot.
Right.
To me, it gets boring, to tell you frankly. I'm kind of a restless person, so I can't, that's why I paint different styles, or not different styles rather, but different medium. I explore a lot, and I move throughout my art career. I've really transformed.
Like you create so often and you create so much, and it's great. It's like crazy. You know, some artists, they take one work and they work on it they could work it for years. But do you have any art that you kind of like always come back and you're kind of finishing a little bit? Or are you getting critical of it? Like, okay,
very.
I'm looking at this and I'm,
Yes.
something should be added to it. Do you
that's
get
so
that?
funny. I do get that.
Yeah.
Not too often.
Yeah.
But sometimes, I look back at my old work and
Yeah.
I'm thinking, oh no, definitely no. So I hide it.
Right.
But that's funny. Many years later, I would go back and I'm like, that's not that bad. So
Right.
things, it's so interesting how our viewpoint changes and the way we see our own work changes. But I
Yeah.
do go back and kind of change a lot of my paintings.
Is this your chair right here?
No, no. This is where I put my water.
Oh, I see. I was just wondering if that's...
I paint standing because
do?
Yeah, I always paint standing.
This is
Because-
neat.
Yeah, because I can't.
Keeps you little-
Keeps me more
like-
involved with the painting.
Oh, cool. Do you think art should have a purpose? Like, do you think it has like a mission
deep
of...
question. Why should we even say should or should not? Art is art. Art.
Are you trying to make a statement
Oh yeah.
or helping someone?
That brings the question: should art be political, or should art stand for certain social causes, or should it even have a statement in it? And I'm yes and no, yes and no. And some people just paint because something is just beautiful, and they create an impression of it. And plenty of my work is just like that. You kind
Yeah.
of go in the zone and you enjoy it for the pure joy of it. You
Yeah.
create art. So in this particular moment, art is just for art's sake. But there are times that I do feel compelled to have a message and just go a little bit beyond, or have some concept that's deeper, or have a statement. And I think definitely, yes, artists have a very important role in that respect.
Oh, Ludmila, you have so many awards. This is insane. There's no room for this.
Did I mention that I've been an intern at Disney? I did for 4 months
No.
at Disney for
No
the feature
way.
animation studios. Yeah,
Oh,
in the
gosh.
90s.
See, you're like amazing, right?
I'm like 10 people in one person. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, you're like a magic-
It's a curse. It's a it's a curse. It's not.
I mean, seriously, you
It's
like
too
such.
much. I'm too much for myself. I'm like, okay,
You're like,
I need to
"Whoa,
focus.
I'm floating in the talents.
I know. I need to have a niche. You know how they say you have a niche. Just focus on the.
Yeah.
You know, I sometimes envy artists that like, okay, this person, you know them that they paint only chickens, and that's all they do, and everybody
No
knows
kidding,
about
right?
the chicken artist.
Yeah.
And I can't.
I know you're so active.
Things are not slowing down. I just keep going. Really, art is so universal. It has no political affiliation. It is universal. It brings people together. It's a unifier. It just
Yes.
takes us, transcends everything that we feel. It just transcends and takes us somewhere else and kind of connects us through our collective humanity.